All right, in this video we are going to be building an Adirondack sofa, and it's going to match this chair right over here. So we made this chair the other day to put around the fire pit. I am going to make another one, but then I've got a gaggle of kids, so I decided, well, we need a sofa. So we're going to go ahead and build this bad boy. So we'll talk about the parts that we need for our sofa. It's going to be 5 foot wide, and the reason I decided on 5 foot wide is because fence pickets come 6 foot long, and so I just decided to make it 5 foot. So we're going to need, we've got 4 pieces here that are 60 inches long on our fence pickets, and then we have 10 pieces that are 34.5. So we just take our fence picket and cut it in 2, basically. It's not quite in 2, but it's pretty close. And that's going to make up all these back pickets here, and those 4 long ones are going to make those, okay? And then for our arms, we have 2 31-inch pieces of fence picket. Now there will be some more milling to do on our arms, but we'll get to that a bit later. And then we're going to need 1 piece, which is this front piece right here. That piece is going to be 63, and that back piece there is going to be 60. And then these here, our legs, those are all going to be 35, and we need 4 of them. So there's a couple of them that are hidden here, 1 on each side and 2 in the middle that are hidden. And then you can see I've already added the miter to our legs. So we've got a 20-degree miter on both ends. Those are parallel. So those are our 4 35-inch pieces. Now there is a bit of cuts we need to do on our legs still, and that is this tiny little cut right there, that little bitty cut right there. So I'm going to go ahead and clear off my work table here, and we'll start there, and I'll show you what we're going to do to get that line. However, I'm going to set it up here on the table to figure out where that line is going to be cut so it lays nice and flat. Okay, so let me go ahead and do that. Now there is actually one more piece I forgot to mention, and that is the back support that goes from arm to arm. That is going, now we're going to be using 2x3s in this project because that's just what I had, but the plans actually call for 2x4s. Okay, so this cross piece here, that is going to be a rough cut to 70 inches long, and then we're gonna trim that once we have all of our arms in place, and I'll show you that as we go. So the plans are available for this project and for our chair. So the plans are $5. You're going to get the chair and the sofa, so you'll be able to build either one of them. And they'll come with the materials list and the cut list on how best to lay out all your parts to utilize the material the best way possible. We're going to use 2.5 and 3.5-inch screws for assembly. We might even use a few staples, I don't know. But so anyhow, and then we are going to need a couple of fence picket material for a little piece that will hold all them boards together at the top and at the bottom here. So we'll just need 1 additional fence picket ripped right in half for that process. Okay, so that kind of gives you the overview of what we're doing. I'll clear off the table. We'll set up our leg assembly, and I'll show you how to get that mark real easy. And then we got to trim all 4 of our legs to that same mark there. Okay, so let's get that set up, and I'll show you what we're doing next. All right, let me show you what we got going on here. So what I've done here is I've taken my 23.5 and I've come up and I've marked 14 inches right there. Okay, now I did go ahead and return that 14 inches on this side, and I returned that 14 inches on that side. And that's going to help us here in just a bit when we actually put all these together. Okay, now these 2 boards do not go together like that. They'll actually overlap one another. But for the purposes of what we need it for is right here. So what I did is I take my 23.5-inch piece. I've got my work table here with a straight edge. And so I took my carpenter square and I made sure that this was square to the table. Okay, so that's straight up and down. And then I've taken this 20-degree miter here at that 14-inch mark and just come down here, and that's where it's going to end right there. Now, if we lift this up and move it over, okay, like so, we're still going to have the same amount of overhang, okay? So as long as we're lined up to that 14-inch mark, that's what we need. Now you can see on a 2x3, once we get it all lined up perfectly up there, on a 2x3, the amount that we're going to cut off is not a lot, okay? Now if it was a 2x4, this would be a little bit thicker, and it would look more like our original plan. So anyhow, what we're going to do is wherever this overhangs the table, we're just going to scribe it on the back side there, and that's how much we're going to cut off. Now we could cut off just a touch more if we wanted to have our chair just tilt back just a little bit. Now in my case, I'm not going to do that, so I'm just going to scribe it right there, and it's just going to be a little nip right there. And then once we've got one cut, then we can copy that to the other three, okay? So that's how to determine exactly where that's gonna be cut off there. Okay, so according to our plan diagram here, I don't know if you can see it very well in the video, but from the tip of our leg stretcher here, so from that tip back to the front edge of this 2x4 right here is 20 1/4. So I've come off the tip, see here, that's where the angle is. Off the tip, I came back, marked 20 1/4 across all four of our leg stretchers, okay? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna connect, this is our 60-inch piece. It's gonna connect right here, it's gonna be flush here, and then on this side, also flush. And then from here, so like if we spread these out, so from here to the next stretcher, we need 18 inches in between. So we need 18 inches in between. So if I slide this over, we need 18 inches in between, okay? So that may make no sense until we actually do it. So let me go ahead and put this together, and you'll see exactly how all that's gonna work, okay? All right, so let me kind of just bring you up to speed where we're at. So you can see here, this is flush on this side, and you can probably see right there where it's on that 20 1/4 mark that we made. So I did just go ahead and square it up, make sure it's nice and square, put in one screw, make sure it's nice and square, put in your second screw, and then we came all the way down to this end and kind of did the same thing. So again, right there on our 20 1/4 mark, and then we do want to make sure we're nice and square back here, and go ahead and put those in. Then from this over 18 inches, okay, and then the same thing here. So from the inside of this over 18 inches, and that will leave us 18 inches in between. Now you can see here where that 18-inch mark is and where my line is. So we want to make sure we're to the inside of that. Now, I will tell you, I messed up a little bit, although it's not really going to matter. I know mentally I did mess up because I measured 18 from the outside edge, not from the inside edge. It's not really that critical, so I'm going to leave it in place, but this will wind up being just a little bit wider, okay? So again, it's really not that critical to take everything apart and put it back together, but just know that's really how it's supposed to be done, all right? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our legs on. Now the legs are gonna be pretty straightforward. They're gonna go at, so what I'm gonna do, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a helper. If we had a wood clamp, something like that would work too. But you can see this leg is slightly overlapping. And so we have our 14-inch mark on our leg. And so what I'm gonna do is just come in here, line it up. So you see that line? I'm gonna line it up, flush, right on that line. So if you could see that, with a couple of 2.5-inch screws. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Now, the line itself is not going to be flush with this because we're gonna put it on at a 20-degree angle. All this will make more sense when I actually do it, but I just want to give you a basic idea of how I was going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on there, and then we'll move on. All right. So let's see if we can show you a little bit more clearly what I was talking about. So you see how that's the critical line right there. Lined up right to that 14-inch point. A couple of 2.5-inch screws there. And if we come over here, we've got the same situation. Right there, flush, and 2.5-inch screws there. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that 63-inch board and we're gonna cap all of these going all the way across, and that will add us a lot of rigidity to our front legs here and our seat base, and kind of just lock everything into place here. So we'll go ahead and get that done and show you what that looks like. We're going to be using 3.5-inch screws on that. So there is the basic frame. See there? We've got our 63-inch piece put in. So I just put 1 3-inch screw in each one of those, 3.5-inch rather, and then I put 2 at the end there into our leg piece itself. All right, so now that we've got that done, we're going to go ahead and cut our 70-inch piece for our back, and we've got to add a 20-degree miter to that as well, all along, or really a 20-degree bevel all along there. So we'll go ahead and do that on our table saw, and then we can go ahead and put in our seat boards. That'll be the next step. So we'll put in our seat boards first, I think, and then we'll cut that 70-inch board and put a 20-degree bevel on it. All right, so we've kind of got the start of our boards here in place, our seat, and I just want to give you a couple of installation tips. So first of all, what we've done is we just take a piece of scrap spacer, right, and just lay that down, because our backboards are going to slide behind these, and what that will do is kind of help with support when we lay back on it. Those boards are going to want to push forward, but they won't be able to because this board will be in the way. Now, of course, those boards are also going to be screwed to our bottom stretcher there. So that's how we want to put this together. Now, what I've done is I've just used my cordless stapler and just have these stapled into place for now. But we will come back in and add 1 5/8 screws and screw it all down. But so we have this spacer, but what I did when my very first board, you can probably see it just a little bit. I just pulled it forward, just like maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so. Not very much, just a little bit. So those boards, when we put our back in, it'll just slide right into place and we won't have to force it in, okay? So I just come up here, move it up just like a 1/16 of an inch, put a staple in, go to the other side, do the same thing. Up a 1/16 of an inch, put a staple in, and now we have it nice and square across the back. Now across the front here, I want to show you what we're going to do here. So this board is just sitting in here at the moment. So what we want to do is take our pencil and mark right there at that corner, okay? And then we're going to do both sides. We're going to mark it on both sides, and then we're going to take our table saw and put a 20-degree bevel on this. And it won't make any sense to me trying to explain it, so I'm just going to do it, and then we'll show you what the end result is. But anyhow, we need a 20-degree bevel right here. Okay, so we're going to mark it both sides, and then we'll put it in the table saw. The reason we're going to mark it both sides, because I always get confused when I go to the table saw, exactly that angle has to go back. So we're going to put a 20-degree bevel like this on it, okay? So I always forget on the table saw, is it up, is it down? So if we have both ends marked, we'll be able to figure it out when we get to the table saw. I'll show you that here in just a moment. Okay, I may have lied to you. So what we want to do is we want this bevel to be 10 degrees. And then this one is going to be 10 degrees. And 10 and 10, of course, is 20, which is our slant of our seat. But you can see it lines up right there, right where we need it to, and also down here. And then what we're going to do is with our cutoff that we just cut off, we're just going to put it in place just like so, and then it will all line up like it's supposed to. Okay, we'll go ahead and put that together, and then we'll move on. All right, so I'm going to give you the full disclosure on this, okay? So the computer says that that angle of those two boards should be 10 degrees. And when I did the chair, it worked out absolutely beautifully, perfectly. However, on the sofa, for whatever reason, that angle wasn't even close. So I'm not sure as to why, but I did just go ahead and fix it. What we're after is on the front edge here, we're after about a 1/2 inch overhang, okay? And mine was considerably more than that. And then secondly, we went ahead and did the 10 degrees on this, but this one, in order to get it to match up pretty accurately, which it is, we had to do 25 degrees. That's just what it worked out to be. So you know, if you're a woodworker, you know it's not always the way the plans show. You just make it work. So that's what we had to do. 25 degrees fits like it's supposed to fit, okay? So take it for what it's worth, but if you run into that situation, that's how you fix it. Just increase it, increase the angle, decrease the angle as necessary to make it work, but we do want a 1/2 inch overhang there, okay? So now we have everything stapled into place. When I get done with the final assembly, I'll come back in. We'll use a pilot drill bit, and we'll put in some 1 5/8" screws to finish that off. So now we have to work on our back assembly. First thing we're going to do is cut our 2x3 to 70 inches, give it a 20-degree bevel along the whole edge, and then we'll go ahead and lay out our backboards and put it all together. Well, I've got my back fully put together, so let me kind of bring you up to speed on where we're at here. These pieces here are 33.5 inches long. Okay, that's kind of the finished dimension. And then we just took this cleat here, is up from the bottom edge 1.5 inches. And then on the top edge here, it is flush. Okay, so it's totally flush there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set this on our bench frame here. So there's 10 pieces. I used a carpenter's pencil for spacing, so you can eyeball it, you can cut yourself some spacers, whatever you want to do, but the overall is 59 inches. So those cleats are 59 inches long, and then we put our first board on either side and then spaced them all out more or less evenly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and for this next step, it's best that you have a partner, and we're going to get it in place, and then all along that bottom edge, we're going to screw it into that backboard right here. You see that backboard? We're going to screw it in there using 1 5/8" screws all along there. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. I did forget about one critical piece, and that is this armrest support, back support, all in one. It's what holds it all together right here. So this is the piece right here that we're putting in, okay, right there. And we're going to come up from our leg here up 17.5. So where is that in relationship to here? Well, where that is right here. So from this point up, we put 17.5, and then we did the same thing on this end. From this point up 17.5. Now we've got to put this board into place. How are we going to do that? Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to use our staple gun, and we're going to drop in some staples right here, kind of at a bit of an angle. Okay, that'll hold it long enough till we can flip it over and put in some 1 5/8" screws all along there to hold all those in place, I think. So that's what we're going to try. Okay, so we're going to get some staples, put some staples in there, and then flip it over and screw it from the front side this way. All right, so I think this is going to work okay. This feels, you know, it's on there, and all we did is I put in 4 staples on this end, then I came down here and put in 4 staples on that end. And if you look at the finished chair here, okay, the small side is facing up. So this is the top, and notice that the small side is facing up. So I actually had it backwards previously. So just kind of keep that in mind, that I did have it backwards previously. So we've got 4 staples going in at an angle. Probably didn't even need that many. Now we're just going to flip it all over, run our screws in. This is 70 inches long. It's longer than what we need, but this is 5.5 inch overhang. So just make sure the overhang is equal on both sides. And now we'll be able to flip this all over and put in our screws. Okay, our back is in place. And the idea there about that backboard, couple of staples, and then you can see we have our 1 5/8 staple, our screws all in place there. So now what we have to do is go to the bottom and screw in all of them along the bottom as well. But you can see it's about 1/2 inch short on both sides, which is what we want. And then you can see that bottom cleat, why we did it the way we did it, it's going to sit on that horizontal 2x3. So there you go. You see these are running wild. We're going to cut those to length once we get our arm in place. And that's really what's going to hold all this together. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put my screws in along the bottom, and then we're going to go ahead and mill up our arms to get that taken care of, and then that will kind of finish this up. So let me go ahead and put those screws in, and then we'll make some cuts on our arms, and then we'll show you how it all goes together. All right, so these are going to be our arms. So they are 31 inches long out of fence picket material. And then what I did is I placed them however I want them to look on the finished bench. So if you like one side better than the other, have your good side facing up, and then I came in and measured 2.5, 2.5, and then from the top I came down and measured 10, and just connect the dots and cut using my skill saw here. Okay. Now we are going to go up there on the miter saw and put 2 45s on the end so we can round everything over. Okay. So give everything a good sand, round it over real good, then we'll move on to the next step. All right, we'll bring you up to speed here. So now we have all of our pieces in place, everything screwed together. Let's talk about it. Our arms here, you can see how we just round over our arms. Now that arm should stick out 2 inches from the front of our leg, and it'd be flush on the inside. And then we just used our carpenter square to make sure this was square here. Okay, that's number one. And then if that's square, then this should basically be a 1 inch overhang on the back. So we used 2 1 5/8 screws there. We used 2 2.5 screws up front, 2.5 inch screws up front, 2 1 5/8 out back. Okay. So now what we have to do is make a little piece that is going to support our arm, because our arm is overhanging quite a bit here. So we're going to make a little piece that will support that out of a piece of 2x4. All right, and then we do need to come in and put in all of our 1 5/8 screws for our seat boards as well. Okay, so you can see those little add-on pieces that we did. Just give it a little bit of a shape there, and we did 1 screw on the outside, 2 screws on the inside here. We did the same thing on this end right here. Okay, and then I would definitely recommend make sure that that connection there is sanded real well, as well as this front edge, so your legs are nice and comfortable. And that's basically it. I do have to go back in and put in my 1 5/8 screws on my seat boards, which I'm going to do, and then we'll get it all staged up and I'll show you the final product.